I know it says Saturday stories, but we're actually going to do Sunday stories. I can't open that up. Just getting set up here while things warm up. And not 100% sure. I think we're just going to read a little bit, and then I have a transcription here I've set up that I've technically already done. There we go. Okay. I always like to kind of using a I always like to see what 1, 2, 3, about 4 seconds. Okay, just curious. Always going through a third-party system, so it's kind of nice to know what the lag is on this thing. All right. Kakio skat now. Wow, Pita Gui. I'm gonna pull up a couple sites here. I know it says Saturday night stream, Saturday stories. It's actually gonna be Sunday stories. Whoops, what did I do here? Sunday stories, and I thought we would take a minute. Mananto, Nona. Kimaga. So maybe we take a look at. There was another story. Which one did I read before? There's a handful of stories here. I think there's some. Oh, Sage Tag in the Rapids. We were looking at that one. Shut-Eye Dancers in here. Mananto. Boom, Kimaga. Pitagwe. Just kind of looking through. I was going to try and find a short story. Usually I do my stream on Saturday, or I'm wanting to do Saturday nights. I just got a little bit busy yesterday. So I thought, well, we'll do something else tonight. Oh, you know what? There's another site here that's good. We could pick a story. I don't know if there's... I've been meaning to go through these. I have permission from Arden Og, who runs the Cree Literacy Network. And there's a lot of stories in here from Solomon Ratt and others, I think. There's probably some good ones in here. And there's audio in here. Yeah, so we could go through this. Oh, this is a long one. We'll have a look at a couple of these and see. Where did I find that now? Can we go to that one? We'll go here. Yeah, okay. Sage Itzak and the Beaver. That one seems a little bit shorter. That might be a good place to start tonight. So it says translated into Cree by Solomon Ratt, 2024. From the Stand Cut Hand, Nehio Tayokeona, Stories of Wesagaitzak, Saskatoon, SICC 1973. There's so many resources sometimes. It's cool to see some of these sort of getting online. Or I was chatting with Arden recently, and there might be an opportunity to start to collect some of these. I mean, I've been collecting things a little bit on Kiano.net, and I want to include some of this stuff in here. So one of the things you can do is if you're a learner and you are trying to learn a word or something, like say, aiwepe. So one of the things you can do is, obviously you can look that up in the, we're just using this one as an example. Aiwepo is they call this the lemma, I guess. Lemma just means the word you see in the dictionary. Because when you learn a word in Nihiuiwin, there's all these different kind of forms, I guess, all these different ways you can say it. They use this one in particular, this third person form, as the one you find in the dictionary. So if you have a physical copy of the dictionaries, that's the one you look up. Aiwepo. And then you need to know how to turn it into these different ones. But if you wanted to sort of, I don't know if we've come across this, but if you go to my site, kiano.net, and you go down to the database, you can find stuff in here too. So if you click on that, we can go there. And this is sort of under construction, I'll say, but it is functional. You can put that in there. Aiwepe. Oh, we haven't come across that one. Let me check again. Aiwepe. Whoops. No, we haven't come across that. Let's find another word. Iteita. Iteitam. Let's see about that one. See if we can find that. So yeah, there it is. You can search in here and you can see sort of where it's used. These are transcriptions that we've done, so you can go and listen to it. And this is sort of an early version of this we're working on, hoping to develop this out a little bit more. But if you go in here under it's under stats here, and you can kind of explore a little bit, like tuuta or tuutam. You can see the different sort of, we call it surface form, but like the different variations. So tagi tuutaman, and then you can see down here where it was used. Let me see. Let's read this story maybe. 2 more minutes for the stream to warm up, and then we'll tie into this. Weisage itzake guamisk. We got time. Tonight, I've also set up this, started on this Ida Bull. I've done this one before, but I thought I'd pick an easy one tonight. We'll do a little bit of transcribing together, just to show you the process a little bit. If you're sort of maybe getting into a little bit more intermediate stuff, one of the things that we see as a challenge in language learning, and I'm sure it's the same in other languages, but in Nihiuiwin, or Michif languages, I'm sure different dialects. I know a lot of other learners that run into the same thing where we've got a class or something for our oh, I just cut my head off there. I should fix that. We got a class or something, and so we've got a little bit of beginner stuff, but there's not a ton of say intermediate materials. So so that transcribing can be a good activity if you're getting into intermediate, because it covers a lot of the check boxes we're looking for in that intermediate learning, vocabulary, phrasing, grammar, holding a narrative. It sort of checks a bunch of boxes really nicely. Stories do too, but transcription is sort of like stories, but you have to figure stuff out. It's a bit of work. It's a bit of fuss. Oh, Chisqua. Neighbor's having an issue here. 1 sec. Chisqua. Can you ask James, the chimney came off again out there? Can you ask him maybe to try and take a look at that? Oh, okay. Probably not the end of the world if it's not.
Yeah, I'll go check.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's. Ah, mi mananto. Kimaga. Okay. Let's get fired up here. So, pe wow isa isage ta kegi pa pimutate. Ispika utita. E kamwataniik CP. Let me see if I can get that highlighter. I've got this one here. That's not the one I want. I'll try and highlight the ones I'm on. You can see, I guess the nice thing about these stories, I'll let you read the part on the side, and I'll just sort of highlight the parts that I'm reading. I guess I could just select it too. Let me see if I see the toolbar. Can I get a highlighter? I don't see a highlighter. Okay, that's fine. I'll do my best with the tools that I have. Okay. Peguawe sawe sageita kegi papimutit. Papimutit. Ispigat otita. E kamwataniek CP. CP is like a river. CP like a stream, I guess. Otitam is that word means to like approach something. Let's just look that up. I was like sort of whenever you look otita, otitam, that one comes to something, reaches it. But you can also see otiteo, which is to approach somebody, I guess. To reach somebody, to approach somebody. Kamwataniik. Which is like kamwatan is like kamwatan, quiet, I guess. Quiet, peaceful, serene. Okay. I always like to look up some words just to sort of, because sometimes there's different, you can see here there's 6 different definitions, I guess I'll say. Some of them from various dictionaries. So Musqueam, it is quiet. I guess in some context, maybe depressing. I guess that's from the Alberta Elders Cree Dictionary. Melancholy, sad, quiet surroundings. So depending on the context, sometimes words can have different meanings, right? And that's the hardest part, or one of the challenges of being an intermediate learner, I guess, is sort of learning the phrasing, or in my experience, we learn a word one way, like learn a word means this thing, but then when you hear it in another context where it might have another meaning, if we haven't been exposed to that, that can be challenging. So I always like to try and just look them up a bit. Mato ma mate o mateuta. Ngaiwe pin nga aiwe pin. Kitetam. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna rest here, he thought. Exigi gausamo. Sisane CPC. CPC. Egwawi puts ki nipapayu. So this is a really cool paye. You see that a lot, that paye, when to talk about like when something sort of happens, or when something's not like say pais is like a car, like when something moves on its own, or when something happens sort of without you having a choice, I guess. I don't know if there's a good paye. I don't know if they have that. Yeah, there's nothing in there. But if you look, there's another site we can check out in a minute. Manato, Suzanne, Kimaga. So I guess Mato Tagngaiwe Pin. Let me rest here, he thought, I guess. Egse. So that's another one of those ones. Egse. We learned that sometimes egse means that's it. But in the context of a story, egse is sort of like the end of the previous thing. It's sort of like and then. Or I guess the interpretation here is like so then he laid on the shore. Gigausamo sisanesi pisi. Egwawipatski nipapayu. Nipapayu, he fell asleep. Emmy says egwa means and. Yep, egwa can mean and. In some contexts, egwa can mean now, or like and then, um, something like that. Yep, egwa. And then, we puts soon ginipapayu. He fell asleep. Ego taisa sipisik. I call that SIS right there. I call that the long S. I just kind of made that up. It's not a real thing, but there's this thing in Nehioi, and I'm sure in other dialects too. When you have SIS together, that I in there, like the S's just kind of become one long S. The emphasis stays the same usually. CPC. So that, and you could say CPC, and you would be correct that you will hear that like that somewhere. But the way I would hear this, probably CPC. So that emphasis is still going to be in the same spot. Egotai sa CPC kegi metoi tsik amisquak. So I guess isa. It took me a long time to figure out how to use that word correctly. Isa. Which is sort of like apparently. So apparently there at the river, these beavers had been playing. Piaka miski toyo. Chis nahani tig stis no isagitsak. E matoi ne pat. Martin ganto segi how. So matoi is kind of like, if you look this up, it means like audibly or visibly. Matoi. Like it was noticeable. Noticeably. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Noticeably. E matoi ne pat. He's, I don't know if you would say like he's noticeably sleeping. Just that the interpretation there is our brother Wisage are sleeping. But you see this matoi, it's just like it's obvious, I guess. Look over there. Kistesno, our brother Wisage is sleeping, I guess. Mate ganto sege how. I'm gonna go let me go scare him. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Are you indigenous? I'm Métis. Red River Métis. Yep. Yeah. My family's Lafrene and Caplet from the Willow Bunch Métis. Egse misk. Egse misk. So then there's that egse again, which is like, again, it's one of those words where if you learn that and you think, we learn egse to be like, we're done, or something like that, like egse, like we're done, or like that's it. But in this context, my brain reads that as like then and then, but here I guess Solomon says so then, I guess you could think of it that way. Yeah, you can follow along. I'm on the Cree Literacy Network. If you go on Cree Literacy Network, let me get another page open here. Not that one, right here. So if we go to Cree Literacy Network, if we go to the menu and you go to read and listen, and we're in Atayokana, the sacred stories, we're in there. And so we're reading this one, Wesagetzak and the Beaver. Yeah, that's right. And Solomon reads this too, so that there's audio with these as well. Exemisk ki asuaham. Egwagi sigahatoeo. Sigahatoeo. Whenever you see that H, especially before a T, try and make that sound. We don't really have that in English. Sigahatoeo. Wisagetsagwa. Okay, so we're at this. This is cool. Because I keep switching keyboards. We see now we have wa at the end here. So we'll talk about this for a minute. Because it's important to know that in Tisqua. You know what? I have a slide somewhere that'll help me explain this. Tisqua. I just have to pull up my YouTube real quick. I didn't have this ready. I should have been more prepared for this because we talk about this every time. I always want to talk a little bit about, especially when you're reading stories. I really like the power of stories because there's an opportunity to explore some of the grammar, some of the vocabulary, different things like that. Trying to find my just navigating my YouTube real quick here. Animacy and verb types, that's not the one. I think it's this one here. Whoops. Back to page 1. I'm just about there. Just about. I'll have this. I'll keep this slide handy for next time because don't need that. See if I can find. Okay, this is what I'm looking for right here. You can find this on my YouTube, and so I sort of talk about the different positions that people are in, but so we'll just take for a second and say, this is us, me and you, okay? Or us. This is you and y'all, and this is them, but there's actually two different people here. And so there's this person, and then there's another person. And in Nehioewin, I'm getting a call from one of my, we're gonna answer this call live. I'm getting a call from a friend of mine. Danse, we're live on TikTok. Danse ya? Na manantonista. How come you're not on my TikTok live? Kitsanuansi. I'll call you back in a bit. How muestas? The timing. So what I wanted to say is we need to distinguish between this person. Let me go a little bit. If I go ahead in this video, here we are. So here we're looking at 3 plural, but there's 2 people here. There's the third person, we, and then sometimes there's another third person, okay? And so if we come back to our story and talk about this for a minute, in this case, the third person we're talking about is a misk. A misk. Hey, Emmy, I'll answer your question in just a second. And then we have another third person here, Wisagetakwa. We can see before, if we go back, here we said, Wisagetak, the only person we were, in this context of this particular sentence, from here to there, the beaver was only talking about one person, Kistes no Wisagetak, our older brother. But in this one, back in the narrative, there's 2 people in this sentence, or 2 animate things, I guess you could think of. There's a misk, and then Wisagetak. But we need to distinguish, especially if there's an action that's happening where one of them is acting on or with another one. We need to know which sort of position that person is, if you want to think of it that way. So let's look at that word. Sigahatoyo. Let's find out what that means. I guess it says splashed. Sigahatoyo. So that word means that one splashes water on someone. But if we didn't have that wa on the end, if we just said a misk sigahatoyo wisageta without the wa, we wouldn't know who was doing the splashing. Okay? That's why that, and we have words for that in the sort of linguistic whatever. They call that the obviative, the proximate and the obviate. Don't worry about that. It just means one person is in focus and one person's a little bit further away. That's all that means. So in this case, we know that amisk kisiga hatoe wisagetsagwa. So the beaver splashed wisagetsag. Mettene wisagetsag tegi gusko gut. I guess he was gusko. That it gut means it happened to him. Gosko heo would be the word. Let's look that up because I don't know it. I guess it's right there too. Gosko heo. He was surprised. Whoop, my keyboard keeps changing. He was surprised. He was startled. It startled him. Gagi simatsquasko. So startled that he jumped up. I don't know this word. Simats. Straighten. Simatsiu is to straighten up. Oh yeah, straighten. So he jumped straight up, I guess. He sat straight up or jumped straight up. This is Nehiuiwan, plain screen Nehiuiwan Y dialect. Espigagi wapmat amisqua. So now we see, because that wapmat, as soon as he saw those beavers, Ginowatneo. So as we know that because now amisk, the beavers has wa on the end. They've changed positions in terms of the focus in the story. And that happens a lot in the language. Who's in focus in the story? Because again, this one here, nawatneo, which looks like to catch someone. Nawatneo, to grab or catch someone. Oyos, osoyi, by the tail. Espigagi wapma tamesquagi nawatneo osoyik. As soon as he saw the beaver, he grabbed him by the tail. Caught him by the tail, I guess it says over here. Ginipu ka su amisk. That's interesting. He pretended to be dead. You probably won't see this. We'll check and see. Maybe it's there. Yeah, it is too. Pretend to be dead. Okay. Nipu kasu. That kasu, gas, that part means like to act like or to pretend. Or to be like, I guess you could say. Wesage zagi tahkopitam. Tahkopita is to like tie something. Utapi tahkopitsiganiapi. I don't know that word. Tahkopitsiganiapi, some kind of. It says fasten the drawstring. Otse, in this case, means from. Misquayo egwa. Egsigi nayumeo. There's a bunch of words in here, I don't know. So it says, Weisagezak fastened the drawstring from his tobacco pouch around the beaver's tail and carried him on his back. That's the interesting about Nehiuiwin. So that word, nayumeo, that person carries another person on their back. That's right. There's a lot of information in one word. So that could be really challenging sometimes in Nehiuiwin. If you miss one word, if you don't know that one word sometimes, that could be really challenging, right? You could be like, well, I don't know. I lost the plot. Asko mana misk ki pasi quetaheo. So I think I would ahasko. I think the way I would hear this is ayasko, but ahasko makes sense to me. Which I guess here it says several times, but I guess the way I understand it is like again and again, maybe like from time to time. But ayasko several times, that makes sense. Ayasko mana misk, the beaver. Ki pasi quetaheo. I don't know that word. Wisagetzak wa osoyote. So again, we can see that Wisagetzak and the beaver. So the beaver, amisk, is back in focus in this case. And Wisagetzak is sort of supplemental to this particular context. pasihquetaheo. Oh, I see. Ihque, that's your face. Like mihquagan. Ihque. Kasihque. Interesting word. Wonder if we can find just that. Glancing, blow, or shot. That's a cool word. So there's actually a bit of a construction here. That ihque is the face. The heo part is like like somebody. So it says here slaps him on the face, I guess. That's an interesting word. Ki pasihquetaheo wisagetsa osoyo with his tail. This is one of those contexts where we learn that word when we're learning like introductions. Danteoche or Danteochigia kia. Where are you from? So we learn that means from, but in some contexts it can also mean for, and in some contexts it can mean with. Osoyo with his tail. Wisagetsagi teta missoi. Egi piswatini. Watikwani. Itasagasa gagimiaska. Eximisoigi pasihquetaigut. I think I understood about 2 words in that sentence, so let's figure out what's going on. So Wisagetsak, he thought about it, the tail. Egi piswatinic. So we'll go over here, we'll read Solomon Ratt's, or I guess this is the original story. Wisagetsak thought the tail was only snagged on a branch of the bushes he passed, and that the tail sprang back to hit his face. Interesting. Hey, mananto, kiamaga. Wisagetsaki teta misoegi. Let's look this up. Biswatin. So I don't know that word. Nope. Sometimes you won't find them in the dictionary. Biswatinic. Watikwan. Watikwani. Like a knot, I guess. Fork of a tree. So in the branches or in the Ita sagasa. Another word I don't know. In the small group of trees. Gagi miaska. Miaskam. I'm just learning about 5 different words here to go past something that he had passed. Gagi miaska. Eximisoigi pasihquetaigut. This one I'm not confident I'll see if I can find it. This word is actually going to be heo. Pasihquetaheo. But I don't see it in the, or ho, pasihquetaho. Hoyo. That makes sense. Oh yeah, that was that other word, to slap someone on the face. Okay. There's another thing that's interesting about this. This is a pretty advanced sentence, and this is one of the things that can make stories. I think the power of stories in terms of language learning, especially if we reread the stories or we go through the stories over and over again, take that opportunity to come back to stories that we've read before, or we've heard before, to reinforce some of those ideas. But as learners, when we get into some of these advanced sentences, some of the contexts are challenging. So hearing them again and again, or getting the opportunity to tie into more advanced, because what'll happen is you'll read a story or hear a story that you heard a while ago, and you'd be like, oh, I understood so much more of that this time. Wow. But then there's still parts in there that that are like, I'm not really quite sure what that is. And that's how the language learning journey goes, is just you advance a little bit at a time, because that's sort of just how the brain works. If you think about, if you're not, we'll just pause and talk about this for a second. If you're not quite where you want to be in your language journey, I just kind of, kiam, like, don't worry about it. Because if you think about, especially if you have kids, or you got like nieces and nephews or grandkids or whatever, pay attention to the language journey of your kids, right? And think about the language that you could make an argument that your 6-year-old is fluent, even though they can't. A 6-year-old has a keen ability to use the word "and" 14 times in a row in a sentence while they're articulating their thoughts, right? But if you pay attention to the way your kids learn language when they're 8, they have these little leaps where they start using words or testing out new words that they've learned or heard. And then when they're 10, and then when they're 14, and then 16. So your 16-year-old language questions are different than your 6-year-old language questions. Because the road to fluency, you aren't just fluent because you know a language. It's not an event. It's a journey, right? We never stop learning language. And so it's important to, one, don't get discouraged if you're not where you're at, if you're not where you want to be yet. Don't let that discourage you. But then, two, take the opportunity to come back to those stories that you heard. Go back to your notes. Go back to something that you worked on in the past. So you can look at that. I pull out my language notes. I pulled out the language notes from my very first class with Ruben Quinn again. And I read through it today, and I was like, I know all these words now. Or most of them. There were a couple in there. It's like, oh, I don't remember he talked about that. That's interesting. Just to go back and give yourself a little boost. Recognize how far you have come in your journey, because it's probably farther than you think. So anyway, that was all just because this sentence is like, there's a lot going on there. So Wisagetsaki tetam, he thought, Misoyigi Peswatini, that had caught in the branches from that group of trees that he had passed, that tail there's still parts of this that my brain doesn't understand. But what I did want to say is that that egi, we see that there's this gi here, gi tetam, he thought. This is placing this thinking relative to now, because for those of you who are sort of into the books, or some of the little bit more linguistic-y stuff, they call this an indexical phrase in Claire Cook's work. This word, this independent word, sort of anchors this sentence at a time and a place. And then when you see that a gi, that gi that's used here in this conjunct one, that means that whatever this is, that snagged on a branch or whatever, happened in a time frame relative to the when this sentence takes place, right? So in this case, that tail that had snagged on a branch, right, that had slapped him in the face already. So eventually he arrived at a lake. Gitanagit. Nagu or Nagu? I always forget. Nagu. Okay. Don't tell Arden I'm checking her checking her checking her work. Nga Musa kenin mitsa egwa ka kisiswao naminahuin. Never seen that before. My pickings, I guess. Minahuin? My game. Yeah, minaho. Yeah, that makes sense. Minaho. Musahnein. Musahna is to like gather stuff. Gather things up, I guess. Musahna. It's interesting how words like this I've heard so many times, and there's so many words that are just starting to stick into my brain right now. Pick it up, gather it up. Musahna. Mihtsa. Mihta would be firewood. Mihtsa was like a little bit of wood, I guess, or some little sticks, is the way I kind of understand that. Egwa. Ngagi swao, and I'll cook it. Niminahuan. Minaho is to hunt game, I guess. Kiitetam, he thought to himself. Kino tegeteo, he was hungry. Ki agoteo, that's to hang something up. Agota, but agoteo, so amisqua. Great example of sort of obvious usage. The beaver didn't hang Wisagetzak in the tree. Wisagetzak hung the beaver in the tree. Wa, that wa on the end tells us who did the hanging and who was the hanged. The hangee and the hanger. Can you say that? Mistagok in the tree. Egwagi natsimiteo. That's an interesting word. Nata is to go get something, to fetch. Mita is wood. So another really cool construction. Natsimiteo, fetch some wood. So I guess you could say, donas, no, it's inanimate. Nata. Natam. Fetch it. Natamita would mean the same thing. Natsimiteo. That's neat. Hexis spiitse miski tapsiu. Ispiitse. Mean in the meantime. Meanwhile. So then, in the meantime, the beaver run off. He tapsiu. Tansigas gaskitat moenia gagiwitain. How he got away, I'm not going to say, he says. So how, tanse, that's another one of those words we learned. Tanse is like hello, but in this context, tanse means how. Tanse, or in that context of greeting, would mean, how you doing? Tansegwa. How now, I guess you would say. Ga isigaskitat, how he accomplished that. The way in which that beaver accomplished his escape. Moinia, ngagiwitain, I cannot say. Ngagi is like could, should, can. Ngagi. I'm not, but it is not up to me to say, is the interpretation here. Moinia ngagiwitain. I can't tell. I can't spill the beans on it. Wisageitsa gawi pi peto teo igita na mitsaigwa gi namateo misk. Geapetsi gitako pisoyit ahpita o suk. All right, it's a few words in there I don't know, so let's tie into it. So Wisageitsa gawi is like if you like come back or again, return, something like that. Gawi. Peto teo. Gipe. I read this as gipe ito teo, but let's go see if this is actually a word because I don't know that one. Peto teo. No, I think it's pe ito teo. I think it's supposed to be like this. Pe ito teo. He came back. He came back walking. But in fluent speech, it would sound just like that. Kawigi pe ito teo. Egi tahkona. Tahkona. To carry. Carrying something. So the wood, I guess. Mitsa. Oh. Tahkona. Yeah, carrying something. So he came back carrying the wood, the branches, I guess. Mitsa. Egwagi namateo. Amisk. Namateo. And absent. Ginamateo amisk. Kea pits. Egi tahko pissoyet. Api ta o sok. I don't know this word. Tahkopso. To be tied up. But ahpita is the pouch, I guess. And what's interesting is that this is animate. Ahpit is animate, so it's an awa. So this egitakupisoyet is talking about the pouch. The pouch was still tied up osuk on his tail, or tied to his tail, I guess. Interesting. Still, kiapits. Still that pouch was tied to his tail. I didn't know tail was animate. That's interesting. There's not many body parts that are. Yeah, that's super interesting. Waisageta gite puyo. Amisk tante gayan. Hey, he yells at him. Where are you at? Tante gayan. Egotaisa sagagani. Gagi hayat. Amisk. So egota is apparently right there in the lake. That's where the beaver was at. Gagi hayat. Amisk baits bimusina sin. I don't know that word. Something bimusina sin. Bimusina teo. I wonder if that's what that is. Yeah. Throws a stone at. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because the tail moves like a. I don't know. There's some. Yeah, there's reasons, I'm sure, but. Amisk beitse. I wonder why it says beitse, not be. Beitse. Hither. Approach. I wonder if be and beitse really mean kind of the same thing. Like, is one a shorter version of the other? Beitse. Or is there a difference between them? Towards. From down there. Be. No, it says these are about the same. So I think these are really quite similar. Be and beitse. Bimusina sin. Nita be. Throw me my pouch, I guess. Ntoyete nita beat. There's an have to tell Arden. Don't tell Arden. Or do tell Arden. There's a typo. I don't think nitoetain, or maybe that is a word. Just what is that? Nope, it should be nintoetain. Nintoetain. Yep, I want it. Ntapit egwa ntsistamau. Interesting how the pouch was animate here, but now it's inanimate here. Nintoetain. I don't know why he wouldn't say nintoemau. Interesting question. Egwa ntsistamau. just a mao, my tobacco in my pouch, I want them. Maybe that's why, nintawitin. Maybe because it's grouped in with stay mao, which I think is probably inanimate. No, they're both animate. So I'm curious. This could just be a regional thing because it's not necessarily the same everywhere. But I'm just one of those things as a learner. Because I'm not a fluent speaker, because I'm just learning, my brain will get hung up on these things and be like, why didn't he say ntuemawak? I want those. Nitapit, nitapit, egon sis nitste mao. My tobacco and no, it would be ntuemawak. Yeah. Ntuetin, ntuemao. Yeah. Interesting. Egi sipas pagosi hat. But I think this is pagosi heo. He begged of the beaver, maybe? I'm just guessing. Yeah, he begs someone. So here the original story just says he begged, but Egiesipogosi hat, he begged of the beaver. It's a little bit more specific, I guess. Amesgi tetam. Gitam go wawiasi haun stays. So the beaver thought, I'm going to play another trick on my older brother. Kiweweganeo apita askiote. Asiski or aski. Those S's, yeah, asiski. I'm probably over blending those. Weweganeo, I don't know this word. I guess here it says cover it. Weweganeo, wrap it, wear it. So the beaver thought, I'm going to play another trick on Nistes, my older brother. So he wrapped or covered ahpita, that pouch, asiskiote, with mud. This is Plains Cree dialect. Nehiwi win. Gi pimoseneo, so we run into this word earlier. Pimoseneo, he threw it. Ahpita. Maga, ki noat sin. Oati kwani, mistigwa. Tsigagam, I don't know that word. Gani pawit. Okay, we gotta tie into this a little bit. There's a lot going on there. Now what the sin? No, what this? No. What does it say over here? So then he threw the pouch, which was caught by a branch of a tree standing on the water's edge. Interesting. Do I do Cree from the James Bay L dialect Moya? Will you say mola? I don't know how and th muda, namuda, N dialect namuna, but I don't know L dialect. Would you say namula? I don't know any L dialect at all. Mula, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So then you'd say L dialect, you'd say nila. Does that mean me? Y dialect, we see niya. TH they say neither. N dialect, nina. Dialects are fun. It's cool to see the similarities and differences between dialects. The further they get apart geographically, from my experience, or I'll say that the more Eastern dialects I understand a lot less, the further east they get. The dialects that are closer to, so I'm from Treaty 6, Edmonton area, so I hear a lot of Y, sort of northern Y, southern Y. There's mostly there's quite similar, but then TH dialect, which is a little bit east of us mostly, then again, very similar, but some obvious differences in some of the words. But then as you start to go a little further east, N dialect, Still lots very similar, but again, words start to be a little bit different, like the way words are used or just different words altogether. My exposure to R and L are like very little. Okay. Gipimusaneo api dai through that tobacco pouch. Maga gi nawatsin oati guaniik. I guess that's the knot. Again, on the knot, mistigwa. Tsigagam, I don't know that word. Close to the shore. Ga ni pauit, this tree standing close to the store, I guess, or it's close to the shore. The tree or trees, I guess, but in this case, I guess it's tree. Asiski, da tsipayu, api tigo tsegwa, ki pagastoipayin. So the mud, da tsipayu, I don't know that word, became loose. Api tigo tse. So the mud came loose from the pouch. Egwagi pagastoipayin. I don't know that word either. There's that paye again. Remember we talked about that at the beginning. Happened of its own accord, I guess you could say. Pagastoipayin fell into the water. Astoe. Pagastoipayin. Have to let that one sink in. So it says, the mud fell off the pouch into the water. Okay, I think we ascertained that. Wesage tsa gipe tam. Tsamo ka hige win. That AHI, when I hear that sometimes, sometimes I hear very clearly, I ahe, tsamo ka hige win. Sometimes it sounds like ai. Like, where was Sagahigan? Or that was just up here. Sagahigan. Oh, we lost it now. Sagahigani. So if it's just this Sagahigan, sometimes I hear it like that, Sagahigan. Sometimes I hear Sagaigan. Because the stress is more here, there's one more syllable on the end. Sagahigani. Probably sound like that. Gi pimusaneo api tamagang gi nawatsin wati kwani mistigwa tsigagam ga ni pauyit asiski dahtspayu api tigote ewa gi pagastoipayin. Okay, I think we did that part. Wesagetsa gipe tam. He heard it. Wesagetsa. Tsamokai hiki win. Well, yeah, that's how we got there. Ai. Ahe or ai. I don't know that word. Let's see if we can find it. Tsamokaigeo. What does that mean? Makes a loud splash. So he heard the loud splash. Egwaginto natonoeo otapita. And so he went to look for his pouch. Here it says the pouch, which is from the original story. But that otapi, that o on the front, that sort of makes it his. Otapi, otapita. Gimiskoeo ahpita. So there it is without the o on the front. He found the pouch. This I would interpret as his pouch, and this that I would understand as the pouch. Nipi, in the water. Agotiniet. Agotiniet. Agotin. Laying in the floats there, floats in the water. It is in the water. Okay. He found it there in the water, I guess. Kimisqueo, he found it. Oh, mustehitse neo. That's an interesting word. Mustehitse neo. What does that mean? What does it say over here? He scooped it up. Mustehitse neo. If I just look up scoop, am I going to find? I wonder if it's I'm always like, is that a typo? Muste. Some words just aren't there. Gagi tuam giga gutsi tau metne egiati munaha wati kan atampi. Okay, so he tried again and again. Gutsi tau. Again and again he tried. Metne egiati munaha. He started to dig. Wati kan. I don't know that word. A hole, I guess. He started to dig a hole. Atampi. At the lake bottom, I guess. Atampi. Underwater, I kind of understand that, but my brain. In the deep water. But it would have to be at the lake bottom, wouldn't it, to have a hole? You wouldn't dig a hole in the water. If you dig a hole, it's probably going to be at the bottom of the lake in this context. So that makes sense. We put so samwayo. So pretty soon he was too far. Soon he reached too far, I guess. Hegwagi pagastoi payu. We hegwane sapogo. Gagi nstoetak ahpit egi agoteet wati kwani. So he pagastoi payu. I think we ran into that word before. This is where repetition is important, or the value of hearing things over and over. Because we looked up this word before, but I'd already forgotten what it was. But later on, when we come back to the story again, or we hear this word in another story, slowly, my brain might be like, oh, I know that word. Doesn't that mean fall in the water? Hegwagi pagastoepayu. So then he fell in. Hegwaisa. Hegwani isa. Hegwani isa. So and then Egwani isa, the interpretation here I guess is only then. If you look up Egwani, that's one of those words where I've seen that word lots, but I still don't know how to use it properly. Egwani, that's the end, that's all. Egwani isa. And sometimes when you put two words together, they sort of mean a little bit different. And so then apparently, that makes sense to me. Pogoga against stoitak. So then he understood. Ahpit. Egi agotet. It was hanging. It had been hanging. Watih kwanik on that knot, I guess, or in that branch. Tsigasti pegisu. Pegisinuin. Tsigasti pegisinuin ego esa. Gagi que muste. Oh, there's that word again. Mustehite na. Over here it says it was the reflection of the pouch he was trying to scoop out. Oh, okay. Interesting. Tawao, kakyo, kitamskat nawa. We're just about done this story. Yeah, Emmy says, Asha, you are here making efforts to learn. Your ancestors will be proud of you. Tapwe. Uh, really want to learn a language before it's lost. Ah, kameamo. I don't feel bad. Don't worry about where you are now. Just keep going. Ah, kameamo. Okay, let's finish this up. We just got a couple more sentences. I see there's some comments coming in. I'll catch up to the comments in a second. So soon he reached too far and he fell in, and only then did he realize the pouch was hanging on the branch. It was the reflection. Esa. Tagaste big sinuan. That's an interesting word. Gagi kakwe musi muste hitse na. Wawiasi hin. You tricked me. A misk. Gatipa. You hear this word a lot. Gatipa higitin. I'm gonna. I guess this is a little bit. Yeah, no, that's the word I hear. Let's just go check it out. Double check. Tipa higitin. Gonna make you pay. Muestas, I'll make you pay later. Here, I guess it says, I'll get you next time. So then he ahkum, not agam, ahkum, giete ahkum matzeho. He kept on his journey, I guess. Ahkami tau op matzehon. I guess. I don't know that word. Ahmi tau. It sounds like ahkum's like to carry on. Ahmi tau. Keep at something. It's interesting. Interesting. Expitamanma. So I do lives. So I usually go on Saturday night, 6 o'clock Pacific, just for a couple hours. We got about 40 minutes left tonight, so we're going to do a little bit of transcription together tonight. We've never done this before. We're going to tie into some transcription. So we read a story. I usually like to read for a bit and then, work on some stuff. We look up lots of words. We talk about words just as learners, just sort of on this language journey together. So Saturday nights, because I couldn't do it last night, then tonight we're doing sort of the makeup show. Sunday Night Live. So we'll go for a little bit yet. I wonder if I'm going to try something here and see what happens. I have my desktop audio muted. If I turn that on, what happens? I'm just going to test this out. Kayla J says, are you a pretendian too? I am Métis. I'm Red River Métis. My family's names are Lafrene and Caplet. Nehiu and Plains Cree was my grandma's first language. Yeah. But I don't, it's an important conversation to have. We should know where we come from. We should know where our relatives. And, yeah. Okay. This is the one. Let's see if we can make this work. I'm going to hold your ears for a second. I'm going to play this and see if the audio comes through. Somebody give me a thumbs up that you heard that. I think it should be coming through. Perfect. So what we're going to do, it was quiet. I can turn it up a bit. I've got it turned down because I think it was like blaring loud. I'll turn it up a little bit. I'm going to play that one more time and then let me know if it's too loud, if it's too quiet. I'll bring it up to about there. We're experimenting with this together. Is that a little bit better? I can go up even a little bit more than that. I just don't want to blast your phone. If I wreck a bunch of iPhones today, then I'll be in trouble. Okay, we'll try that. So what we're going to do here is, I've already done this transcription once, but we're going to go through this together. And so transcription is just the process of listening to a fluent speaker and trying to figure out what's being said. Now, I'll just say this is Ida Bull. I believe Ida Bull is from Muscogee, and so we have permission to transcribe this, and so we'll do this together. And just as a bit of an exercise, if you are just a beginner, this is going to be pretty hard, or can seem pretty hard, because if you don't quite have the vocabulary and all of that stuff. But that's okay. Stick around anyway, because you will pick out some words. This is a little bit more of an intermediate activity. If you've already been through your classes and you're looking for more resources and materials to help you get to the next level of your language game, your journey, transcription can be really great. Now, that being said, some transcriptions are really hard. Like the audio is not great, or sometimes fluent speakers are just really, really fluent, and they're just using, we might say like old Cree or like really big words. So it can be pretty grindy, I'll say. It can be pretty challenging. But that being said, this is a really excellent exercise to do in your journey, because it forces us to figure out what's being said. And once you've worked really hard for a couple of words, once you've worked really hard to understand what somebody's saying, right, you never forget those words. There's this word from the very first transcription I did. It was the very last word I couldn't figure out because it wasn't in the dictionary. It was Doreen Frenchie or Day Chief. And I actually saw Doreen at Sweetgrass, the Sundance, a couple of years ago, a couple of summers. It was Sneepino. And I said, that's it, Doreen. I got this transcription I did. I can't figure out this one word. Do you mind? Would you help me and tell me what this word is? And she said, yeah, tapui. So I brought the thing over and I played it. And it was Pagoga mamo kamatoya is what the word was. Mamo kamatoya. Because it wasn't in the dictionary. But as soon as I heard it, I knew what it was, because I knew the word niso kamatowak. But the word was mamo kamatoak. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, I know what that means. And then she talked about it. So those words are hard won, but it's almost like as adults, we sort of have to, some of those words are hard won, but if we get there, once we win them, we never forget them. Those are ours now. We'll never forget those pieces. So let's tie into this a bit. I wanted to introduce transcription in case anybody's never done it. I want to start doing this a little bit on the second half of our lives on Saturday. We'll continue next Saturday. Again, we'll do stories and some transcription. So let's see if we can. I've already started out the first one, so we'll listen to this a little bit. And then I'll show you my process, or our process, for transcribing a little bit. You can do this with a Google Doc or a pencil and paper. You can do this any way you want. You don't have to use SRO. We're going to be using SRO here because that allows us to use the dictionary, to tie into the dictionary, to start to figure out some of these words and start to understand what's being said.
Give me goseno nehiaweon.
Give me goseno. Give me goseno. I think this is mi goseno. Egoise. Is it egoise, or it might have been right the first time. Nehioe win.
Eugama kihtiki guay.
Eoguan magi tsigi igwe. I can see my, I just want to check on something here. Oh, let's turn the analyzer on. I was wondering about that.
Give me goseno nehiaweon.
So we did that one. Gimigosano nehioe win.
Eugama kihtiki guay.
Got that one. Eoguan magi tsigi igwe.
Mstaiki guay ogo.
So what I hear there is Mr. Higigwe. Mr. Higigwe. Whoops. Eogo. That's what I hear there. Mr. Higigwe Eogo. So we'll check it.
Mstaiki kwa yogo.
Yeah, that's what I hear there. Mr. Higigwe Eogo. So now we'll move this one over here. We'll try not to grab too big a chunk. I get in trouble for grabbing too big a pieces sometimes when I'm transcribing with my friends.
Apoa nikan
Well, we're going to have to go more than that because I hear Boa, Nigan something. Whoops. Let's try this again.
Apoa nikan
Let's just stretch this out a little bit and see if we can figure out. Let's see if we can hear a little bit more.
Apoa nikan semanto kake kan nikan haya.
Okay, there's quite a bit in there. Nigan kisemantu. I gotta hear that again. A couple of questions. So, how long have you been learning for? About 6.5 years now. Well, just over 6. I think my very first class was with Ruben Quinn in 2018 in the fall, September. So yeah, about 6.5. Is this my job? This is for, well, I guess you could say it's for fun. This is for learning purposes. This is for language reclamation, language revitalization, but it's not my job. It's not paid, if that's what you mean.
Apoa nikan semanto kake kan nikan haya.
Kagage. Ka. One more time.
Apoa nikan semanto kake kan nikan haya.
Nikan haya. It's like to put us first or something. Nikan. I think that's what she's saying. Nope. Put someone in front. Nikani haya. I think that's. Oh, we put the creator first is what she's saying. Nikani haya. We put the creator first. Let me hear it one more time.
Apoa nikan semanto kake kan nikan haya.
Yeah. Ga or ga. I'm going to put ga for now because this is the process of working through this is figuring out what's being said. I'll just put this for now and we'll come back to it. Ni gan. I keep hitting the wrong one. Yeah, we put the creator first. That's the way I understand that one. All right, next one. We're going to put the creator first.
Eu guane ki miko yak big squeon. Eu guane ki miko yak big squeon.
It'll go. Second word. Sometimes we don't have to get everything. We can just kind of put a little note in there and be like, what is this? Not quite sure. Let's listen to it one more time.
Eu guane ki miko yak big squeon. Eu guane ki miko yak big squeon.
Imikoyak, big squeal. And there's another word in there. That's okay. I'm hearing imikoyak. Biggest squealing. One more time, just in case.
Eu guane ki miko yak big squeon.
What's the second word? Eoquaimi. Imikoya, big squealing.
Eu guane ki miko yak big squeon.
It almost sounds like anigi, but I'm not sure if that's what it is. That's okay. We'll just keep going.
Kakitseitamak.
Kagitseitama to gitseitama. To value, I guess, to cherish. Gitseita. Giitseta, to respect. That makes sense. Giitseta, for us to respect. Kagiitsetama.
Kakitseitamak.
Yeah. All right, next one.
Ikimikusia keukwama.
Egimigosia keuguanma. It's probably a long A. Egimigosia euguanma, she's saying. Yeah.
Ikimikusia keukwama.
Yeah. So this is the process. This is one of the that was given to us by the Creator. She's saying that was given to us. Yeah. So this is one of the processes that we, can use this transcription process to sort of advance comprehension, advance vocabulary. Emmy says, what is anma? It means that one or that thing. So when you hear that, eo go anma, that thing I just mentioned in this context, eo go anma, she's saying the language she's talking about. Back here when she said, she's talking about gimigosno nehiuiwin. The language was given to us by the Creator, she's saying. Nehiuiwin. So the topic so far, up to this point, is the language. Right, she's saying. It's an important thing. It's important. It's a, how would you interpret that? A mighty thing, an important thing. And so that when she says eo goanma right here, she's referencing back to that which she's been speaking about. Anma, that. Eo go anma, that thing, that one we've just been discussing. Eo go anma. All right, next one. A couple comments. Let me just get caught up here. Anma. So we got that. Could I get into learning Cree pretty easily from speaking Ojibwe? I keep hearing that. Because Anishinaabe one's on my list. I know like the littlest tiny little bit of Anishinaabe. And I'd love to learn it. It's challenging to learn too, but I hear people say that it's easier to learn from, if you know one, it's easier to pick up the other one. But it's also, but it is important to have like support and resources, like, other learners, fluent speakers, that kind of thing. So I think you could, assuming you were around, Nehiwak. So Carson, probably considering the language are kind of close. I think that was, yeah. Do you have a link tree so we can find the programs or apps you use? Yes, I don't have this one publicly open. So this app that I'm using for transcribing, this is my app. I'm actively working on this right now. I built this application specifically for transcribing, a Nehiwewan specifically, but this could be used for any Indigenous language. And there's a feature that's not working right now. That's the spell checker. I'm gonna have to look into that. But it's a project. It's a project. But this is my app. I don't have it publicly available right now, but it will be soon. Yeah. And otherwise, if you go to my link tree, you can find the rest of the resources. Kiano.net, like Emmy mentioned. There's other resources there. Somebody asked, "Are you learning Cree?" Yes. Tapwe nehiwi win. Okay. So, did you know you speak more clearly than any kid growing up my age who grew up listening to Cree? That just comes with practice. The thing about any of the kids that you know or yourself, if you grew up hearing the language, then you have that. You already have the gift of that language in there, and so the only piece that's missing is the practice piece. And I know that's challenging for some people. I don't have that experience, so I can't speak specifically to some of those challenges, but you have that. You have the sounds of the language already, and the comprehension. And so if you can just connect that next piece, and practice will help with that. This app is called Keanu Transcribe. This is something, I'm a software engineer by day, so I've been working on this for a while for transcribing. I'm hoping to release it generally to the public soon. It's a work in progress. My family says they grew up hearing it. Parents spoke fluent but didn't teach us. It's not too late. It's not too late. I started learning Nehiwewin about 6.5 years ago. It was September of 2018. Ruben Quinn was having a class at the Center for Race and Culture in Edmonton. That was my first class. Yeah. I know me too, growing up listening to Cree my whole life, but now I barely understand it. It's not too late. If you start listening, it'll come back. I think they call that, if you understood the language, I think the word for that is like silent speaker, where you have some, comprehension or whatever, and it can come. Even my wife's grandma, who was fluent when she was little, even like a young teen, and then was away for a very long time. She moved back to her community in her 70s, I think. And even just little bits, she's like, oh, I know that word. She would pick up things again. So it's that, the connections can still be there. As I'm getting older, I'm learning my language for me and my future children. Tapue. Nista. Okay, from James Bay, Ontario, Mushkego. Ahow. Let's do a little bit more. We've still got some time. Let's see if we can get a little bit further into this. So that had been given to us, by the higher powers or by the Creator. That language she's talking about. What's the next one? Yeah. Egai, she says. Egai wikats. Never. Gawanitaya, she says. I wonder, it sounds like she's saying kakwe wanitaya. I understand kakwe is to, kwe is like to try. But I wonder if in this context, wanitaya. Takwe wanitaya. Let me just look that up. See if there's other kakwe. Yeah, circumstances, yeah. So this is one of those words where in context, I would understand. I'm going to put because the part in there is kakwe, which I learned as try, but in this context, I think it means like the circumstances, to never lose it. Kakwe wanita, to never lose it. Wanitao is to lose something, yeah. Wanita, yeah. I'm hearing kwe in there. I think that's what she's saying. Yeah, I think that's what she's saying. For us not to lose it. To never lose it, I guess you would say. All right, next bit. We can't lose our language. One more time. We can't lose our language. I'm hearing moikagi. The ki is implied. Ka, ki. Juanita, no is what I'm hearing. Nehiwewin. That's what I'm hearing. Moingagi Juanita no Nehiwewin. I think that's what's being said there. Oh, I would get in trouble for drawing such a long box under normal circumstances, but we'll try it. Next one, Region 10. Oh, there's quite a bit in there. What was that first word? Oh,
Ipaskunak nehiawatsun ksnohmatunuta.
I'm hearing wia oge. These ones. I'm hearing.
Uyoge ipaskunak nehiawatsun ksnohmatunuta.
Nehiwatsun epas.
Uyoge ipaskunak nehiawatsun ksnohmatunuta.
Epasigonak.
Egon gangtsak bacon a gange.
Whoops. Epasigonak. I think that's what she's saying. They're lifting it up. They're rising. Pasigo is to get up. They're like lifting it up, I guess you'd say. Uyoge epasigonak. That's what I'm hearing there.
Uyoge ipaskunak nehiawatsun ksnohmatunuta.
Nehiwatsun. That's what I'm hearing.
Uyoge ipaskunak nehiawatsun ksnohmatunuta.
Kiskenomartuenuutta. Keskinwa hamma tuin uta. That's what I'm hearing there. Could be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong, but this is part of the process. Is when we get into those tough spots, listen and listen and listen. One of the things you run into is if you're at a ceremony or you're sitting with fluent speakers or something like that, you can't really be like, oh, pause. Can you stop there? I know you were praying. What was that word? You don't get to do that, right? So that's what can make transcribing, even though it's a challenging process sometimes, but you can listen again and again. And if we get stuck oftentimes, just go back and ask a fluent speaker, what does this word mean? Or what is this person saying here? Right. And you'll be surprised too, just by listening and going through over and over and over again. Yeah, I know, right? Try it at the next gathering. Pause, stop. Can we stop there, please? That word. What was that word? That's probably, it'll be funny anyway. And would be, I'm a student. Well, that'd be too good. So, and transcribing this, going through this process can be good in small chunks. It can be good in groups. We used to do this as a group. Folks get busy, so we haven't done it in a while. But I wanted to, again, introduce the process, because if you are a language learner, this can be a good process to just get started with. And pretty soon you'll have your dictionary and the websites and books open and everything. And, spend an hour just trying to get through a recording, writing down what you hear. So when people ask me, how did you get to where you are? This is one of the ways. Listening and transcribing fluent speakers, because it does those things that we need as learners. It gives us new vocabulary. It gives us repetition because we're listening over and over and over again. It's building our comprehension. And then we're also, even though we don't realize it, we're building out an understanding about more complex phrases and narratives. We're learning about how to string those sentences together. Like that really great question. What does that mean? Anma, eogo anma. We start to understand how they're used in like a narrative. Right? I'm just going to listen to this one more time and just make sure I have this right.
Uyoge ipaskunak nehiawatsun ksnohmatunuta.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. All right, let's do a couple more. We still got time to go a little bit further.
Egon gangtsak bacon a gange.
Eogo, tak begana.
Egon gangtsak bacon a gange. Egon gangtsak bacon a gange.
Egwa, I think she's saying. Tak begana. Tak be There's different ways to spell this. Zakbegan. Let me see if I can find it. Syllabic. Zakbegan. Zakbehigan. Zakbehigan. Oh, I lost my page. Yeah, sorry, the video is at the bottom corner. Zakbehiganak.
Ekon kang zakbehigan kanke.
I think ange is in there again too. Egwange. Zakbehiganak.
Ekon kang zakbehigan kanke.
But it's one of those ones where it's like, that's a thing. Fluent speakers, you know, you don't, when we speak even English or whatever, we don't pronounce every word exactly how it is spelled, right? Fluency is really the way the flow of the language goes. So I think I'm hearing this in there, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if she's saying ange, but she does at the end, I think.
Ekon kang zakbehigan kanke.
Ange. And honestly, it doesn't probably completely matter whether she's saying ange in there. We sort of understand what she's saying anyway. Yeah, so there's a video here. There's this application can do audio or video. I have a branch I'm working on that will take images, so we could transliterate syllabics as well. It's not ready yet, but this I could kind of move the video back and forth side to side if it's in the way. There's a few other features in here. Again, the application's not completely ready for showtime, but it's close. It's pretty close. Let's do a couple more, and then we'll just we got about 10 minutes here, so we'll try a couple more regions, and then we'll break for questions before we wrap it up for tonight.
Ktawasim suawak. Kio skayak.
Kitsuasim suawak. Kitsowa sim suawak, I think. Did I spell that right? Well, my spell checker's not working right now, so not sure why. Kitsowa sim suawak. Kitawa sim suawak. Awa sisim misuau. Dictionary doesn't like me today. It's fine. Kitswa sim suawak. We know what she's saying.
Ktawasim suawak. Kio skayak.
Kiawau. Oskai. Osk. Yuck. How does he spell that? Oskayak. I think it's like that. Osk. Oskayak. Yeah, with an I. Oskayak. All right, let's do one more hard one. Great big long one right there.
Ekon kang kawiko hayego kang zakbehigan kaksnohmatik. Ekon kang kawiko hayego kang zakbehigan kaksnohmatik.
So I can hear almost all of that, but at the beginning it's like, it's so fast and so fluent that I'm not 100% certain the bits in there.
Ekon kang kawiko hayego kang zakbehigan kaksnohmatik.
Sounds like eoko ange.
Ekon kang kawiko hayego kang zakbehigan kaksnohmatik.
Ewi something hayakok.
Ekon kang kawiko hayego kang zakbehigan kaksnohmatik.
Wiko hayakok. Wiko heo, is that a word? No. I don't know this word.
Ekon kang kawiko hayego kang zakbehigan kaksnohmatik.
Zakbehigan kiskino. We something. This is where we step in and we're like, hey, we need a fluent speaker for this part because we don't know that word.
Ekon kang kawiko hayego kang zakbehigan kaksnohmatik.
Ange zakbehigan. And the last word is Kiskenuhamatik. Thank you. So there's definitely a word in there I don't know. So this is where, I would flag this for help later on, just to be like, I'm not sure what that word is. We could bring somebody in that does know the word or teach it to us. Because down here I can see in the text, it's probably hard to see on your phone, but down in here in the subtitles it says, you should integrate the syllabics to be taught to the children. And so I don't know, is there just a word that means words like integrate? I don't know if there's just like a direct translation. So there's probably a word that has a specific meaning in the language that's being used that sort of translates to. Translating is so hard, eh? Let's do it one more time. Goey. It's definitely goey. So I would probably leave that and then just come back to it later. Any words we don't know, we'll just leave it and come back to it. Keep moving through the. Exegue escuta. Guay. And I would say, do one more. Utohunua. Interesting. That's that, that's that Muscogese dialect or something. I'm going to leave it there for now. That's the process anyway. How far did we get? 50 seconds. Almost 51 seconds. And we started on that. We're actually doing pretty good. That being said, I already know this. I know most of this transcription. I've done this one before. I have another copy of it. But I transcribe at about an hour a minute. It takes me an hour to do about a minute. We did this one in about almost a minute in about 40 minutes. So we're motoring along pretty good. But I know the speaker. I'm familiar with Ida's speech a little bit. So that wasn't bad. That's the process. Transcribing a little bit. And if you get the chance, that's what I was going to say too. I've sort of, I don't know if this was ever a controversial topic. It's not really a hot take or whatever. But two things, if you get the chance, record your fluent speakers. I'm more and more coming to this mindset lately, this sort of position, having been involved in a few different groups where, or knowing of a few different groups that are really struggling with reclaiming or revitalizing their language. Record your fluent speakers every opportunity you get. And not to say just follow them around with a phone or whatever, but if you can set up opportunities. I'm going to do a few videos in the next little bit talking about recording. I have a background in sound engineering a little bit as well. And so there's some easy tips and tricks you can do to get good recordings. As we can see in this one, if we go back to that last couple, this is a very well-produced video, so you don't need to necessarily do that. But if we look, when I click on this region, just watch her gesture. I was working with another group here a while ago that was only doing audio recordings, and actually another group when I was out in Winnipeg, when they were like, we're worried about the space. We've just been doing audio recordings, and I always say, just record the video anyway. You can throw the video away if you don't want it. you can just keep the audio recording, but if you only record the audio, you can't get the video back. And for us learners that are transcribing, if there's a gesture in there, or being able to see the speaker's mouth sometimes makes the difference in being able to understand what somebody's saying, or being able to figure out what somebody's saying. Being able to see their face, seeing a person speak is such a fundamental part of communication that having that video of someone speaking can make a big difference, especially if the audio is not super great. Being able to see them speak, just sometimes it can help. That, and the other thing, which is record your fluent speakers. Kiwao ga pagskanehiui. All y'all that are fluent speakers, take the opportunity to tell stories if you can, to your kids, or share stories with others. Just sit down with a phone. I do the bulk of my recording with this. I got a little microphone here that plugs in the bottom that can be helpful in scenarios where, be helpful in scenarios where it just sort of helps focus that sound a little bit. And then I have a little tripod. Where's that at? I think it's out in the other room. Just a little selfie stick that turns into a tripod. And I carry this around everywhere I go. And when I run into fluent speakers, and if I run into you, I'll ask you to tell me a story so we can transcribe it. We're at that point. I know there's folks, I don't necessarily want to folks say, our language is just sleep. Our languages are just sleeping, and I don't want to disagree with that. But I also don't want that to be to make us feel safe or complacent in not taking action about our languages right now. Because I did interviews with a group I did interviews for a research group on the island, the Vancouver Island University, Victoria, I think, a group of advanced and intermediate learners where they had lost already their last fluent speaker. And there was just a group of learners trying to, with the materials that they had, trying to find a way to continue advancing the revitalization of their language. And we have too many communities in that or close to that situation. So I know I don't want us to feel complacent in our, Nishnabemwin, Nehiwewin, Nehinowiwin, Nehidowiwin, Ininimuin. I said that wrong. Ininimuin. We cannot be complacent, I think. We need to amp up our, and I think about that, there's all of these. I think about, Tyrone Tutusis. I hear stories of the boxes of tapes that Tyrone had that people are going through. There's different collections of folks back in the 70s and 80s and 90s recorded their elders and have all of these things. And I'm just going to say it out loud. We should keep doing that. We should keep recording the stories that we have now. Because the language shifts over time a little bit when, sometimes we listen to those older stories. I know my mentors who are fluent speakers, who grew up in the language, who grew up speaking the language, and they listen to those tapes and they go out and ask their parents and their elders, what do these words mean? So we need to, our languages have shifted a bit. So I think we still need to keep capturing the language we have and use today. And again, with that, then we have resources at our level that we can work on nowadays. MPT says, what time Saturday? 6 o'clock Pacific. So we're just doing Sunday tonight because I couldn't last night. Next Saturday will be 6 p.m. Pacific time. That is a nice sash, isn't it? I picked this up at, where was that? Nice. It was a powwow a few years ago in Edmonton. There's a company out east. I think they were out of Ontario or Manitoba or something. They made these nice sashes. I should have got the big one, but they were also kind of pricey. Any last questions? I think we're going to wrap it up there tonight. We did a little bit of stories. Don't sleep on Cree Literacy Network. There's so much stuff there. There's so many stories in there, and Solomon Ratt has so much audio, and all of the translations are in there. Really great site. Don't Don't sleep on that site. There's so much stuff in here. Arden's done so much work in putting together resources in there. So, and then also this live, I've been by putting all my lives on YouTube now, so you can go on the YouTube and catch any of the last ones if you've missed them. Oh, I think I am missing one actually. Now that I think about it, I need to go back and have a look. Better Cookham says, what time next Saturday? 6 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. BC time, 7 p.m. Edmonton time. I think that's going to be 8 p.m. Saskatchewan. Some random time in Whitehorse. I only say that to pick on my friend Ben, who doesn't actually even live there anymore. He's on BC time now, so I just say it because it's just one of my digs. Mio tipskanse. So if a tipskow is, it is a good night. Mio tipskow, it is a good night. But if you want to say have a good night, tipiskanse, which isn't in there. The one you should be in here is gisikan isse. Gisiganse, how you spend your day, how you live through the day. But if you say mio gisiganse, you're sort of saying like, have a good day. But that anise, you can say that with mio tipskanse, have a good night. It's not a class. This is just us learning. So we read this story tonight. Wisagitsag Misk, Wisagitsag and the Beaver. That was a good story. We'll probably pick some stories off of Arden's site here for next week too. We'll do another one. We'd first looked at this one. Wisagitsag Mimi Kwanisuak. And I think Solomon is translating these old Ahenekyu stories back into Nehiwiwin. Solomon's got it, and then he reads them out too. Solomon's taught for, I think they said he teach for 25 or 35 years or such, like a really long time. And then he still continues to just put out more and more material. If you go to Cree Literacy Network and go to read and listen, and then there's Atsmona, Atayukana, and then some other stuff. And I think a bunch of this stuff is what ended up in Solomon's book too, because that's Arden's gig, is she puts that kind of stuff together. That's not all she does, way more than that, but just the organizing and publication and all that kind of stuff. The behind the scenes magic. So yeah, we read some stories and then we tied into this, and we can even continue. We'll continue on this transcription a little bit next week. See if we can get a little further. Let me refresh this. Kind of bothered me that how does Solomon find the time? I don't know. I don't know. There we go. Spell checker looks like it might be working now. There we go. All right, spell check's working now. So we'll have the spell checker for next week. That'll be good. Eogo doesn't spell check because there's a glitch in the spell checker, but that's okay. Any last questions before we shut down? We'll just give a couple more minutes. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Dante Otie Kiwao. Where are you from? Grateful to have everybody on the live tonight. I hope there was something in there that was helpful in your language journey. We'll do it again next Saturday. Kokom's in Regina. Aha, tapwe, kas. Other side, awasap skok, you can say. Other side of the mountains. Awasap skok. Thanks for tuning in. A couple more minutes. Any last comments or thoughts, questions? And then, I think I smell supper. Again, if you're just tuning in, the live, I'll have that uploaded on my YouTube in the next day or so. And then otherwise, we'll see everybody on next. Go tuaso isagage go up now. Wow, mio paige. So long as everything goes well, we'll see you all on next Saturday. I'm gonna drop the live there. Saimina kakio kitam skat now. Wow, kanaskum tina wow kakio gape gilgoyi. All y'all that came to visit tonight. And we'll see you next week. Muestas.